The first time I realized I loved Jackson. He was laughing so hard, he nearly fell off the pier. His voice cracking like a kid's as he tried to toss a fry into my mouth from 10 feet away. We were 16, sunburned, and invincible. The kind of best friends who could finish each other's sentences and steal each other's hoodies without asking. That night, under the stars, I felt something shift, something I buried deep. Because Jackson was straight, and I was terrified of ruining us. Now, at 22, I stood in my cramped apartment in Seaside, Oregon, staring at the couch where Jackson would sleep tonight. He'd called me out of the blue, his voice tight, saying he needed to crash for a few days. No explanation, just a desperate edge that made my stomach twist. I hadn't seen him in a year, not since he moved to Portland for college, chasing a business degree and a life I wasn't sure I fit into anymore. But when he asked, I couldn't say no. I never could. The doorbell buzzed, and my heart lurched. I opened the door to find Jackson, his broad shoulders filling the frame, his sandy blonde hair a mess under a worn baseball cap. His green eyes, usually bright with mischief, were shadowed, and his smile didn't quite reach them. "Eli," he said, pulling me into a quick, tight hug. "Thanks for this, man. I owe you." "You owe me nothing," I said, stepping back, trying to ignore how his touch sent a jolt through me. "What's going on? You look like you haven't slept in a week." He dropped his duffel bag on the floor and ran a hand through his hair. "It's complicated. Can we not get into it yet?" I nodded, though worry gnawed at me. Jackson was the guy who could charm anyone, who'd talk his way out of anything. Seeing him like this quiet, guarded felt wrong. "You hungry?" I asked, gesturing to the kitchen. "I've got pizza. Pepperoni. Your favorite." He grinned, a flicker of the old Jackson. "You remembered." "Dude, you'd ride if I ordered anything else." I tossed him a slice, and we settled on the couch, the tension easing as we fell into our old rhythm. We talked about nothing: movies, the Seahawks, the time we got caught sneaking into the arcade after hours. But every pause felt heavy, like he was holding something back. As the night wore on, the apartment grew quiet. I handed him a blanket and pointed to the couch. "It's not much, but it's yours. You sure you're okay?" He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I will be. Just glad I'm here, Eli." I lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Jackson was here, in my space, and the feelings I'd locked away for years were clawing their way out. I'd spent so long convincing myself I was over him, that I could be his friend and nothing more. But now, with him just a room away, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. Jackson was in the kitchen, shirtless, flipping pancakes like he owned the place. "Morning, Sleeping Beauty," he teased, tossing me a plate. Figured I'd earn my keep. I laughed, but my eyes lingered on him and the way his muscles moved under his tanned skin, on the easy confidence he wore like a second skin. "You didn't have to," I said, sitting at the counter. "But I'm not complaining." We ate in comfortable silence, the ocean breeze drifting through the open window. Seaside was alive outside, with tourists crowding the boardwalk and the arcade's neon lights flashing in the distance. I wanted to ask him again what was wrong, but something stopped me. Instead, I said, "You want to hit the beach later? Like old times?" His face lit up. "Hell yeah. You still got that beat-up surfboard?" "It's in the closet, waiting for you to wipe out on it." He laughed, and for a moment, it was like nothing had changed. But as we headed to the beach, I couldn't shake the feeling that this visit was about more than a nostalgic getaway. Jackson was running from something, or maybe running towards something. And I was terrified of what it might mean for us. The beach was crowded, but we found a spot near the dunes. Jackson stripped down to his swim trunks, his grin wide as he grabbed the surfboard. "Watch and learn, Eli," he called, sprinting toward the waves. I sat on the sand, my heart aching as I watched him. He was still the same Jackson, fearless, reckless, magnetic. But there was a weight to him now, a shadow I couldn't name. He rode a wave, then another, his laughter carrying over the crash of the surf. When he finally jogged back, dripping wet and grinning, he flopped down beside me. "Your turn," he said, nudging my shoulder. "Nah, I'm good watching you make a fool of yourself," I shot back, but my voice caught. Our shoulders brushed, and I felt that old spark flare up, sharp and dangerous. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "Eli," he said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." My breath hitched. "What?" He opened his mouth, then closed it, shaking his head. "Later. Okay. Let's just enjoy this." I nodded, but my chest tightened. Whatever he was holding back, it was big. And as the sun sank lower, painting the sky in shades of fire, I knew tonight would change everything. The bonfire crackled, sending sparks into the night sky as Jackson and I sat on driftwood logs, the beach now quiet except for the waves. A few locals lingered nearby, their laughter mixing with the strum of a guitar, but it felt like we were in our own world. Jackson's knee brushed mine, and I tried to focus on the fire instead of the heat spreading through me. "Remember when we built that awful sandcastle?" he said, his voice low, nostalgic. "The one that collapsed and got us banned from the beach for a week." I laughed, the memory sharp. "Yeah, because you insisted on digging a moat the size of a freaking lake." Mrs. Carter was pissed. He grinned, but it faded fast. "We were so dumb back then. Thought we could do anything." "We kinda could," I said, nudging him. "Still can." He didn't respond, just stared into the flames. The silence stretched, heavy with whatever he wasn't saying. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but I'd learned long ago that Jackson opened up on his own terms. Instead, I grabbed 2 beers from the cooler and handed him one. "To dumb kids and bad ideas," I toasted. He clinked his bottle against mine, his eyes softening. "To us." The words hit harder than they should have. I took a long swig, trying to drown the ache in my chest. We'd always been us, Eli and Jackson, inseparable since we were 10. When he moved to Seaside and we bonded over comic books and sneaking into R-rated movies. But I'd been in love with him for half that time, and every moment like this felt like a tightrope walk between friendship and something more. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked suddenly, his voice barely above the waves. "Seaside." I shrugged. "Sometimes. But it's home, you know. Got my job at the bookstore, the ocean, the arcade. What's not to love?" He nodded, but his jaw tightened. I thought Portland was going to be it for me. Big city, new start. But it's not what I expected. There it was, the crack in his armor. "What happened up there, Jax?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "You've been dodging the question since you got here." He took a slow sip, his eyes distant. "It's my dad. He found out something about me. Something I didn't even know how to tell myself." My heart pounded. "What did he find out?" Jackson's laugh was bitter. "Let's just say he's not thrilled his son's not the perfect straight jock he wanted." The words hung between us, sharp and electric. I stared at him, my mind racing. Was he saying what I thought he was? I'd spent years convincing myself Jackson was untouchable, that my feelings were a one-way street. But now, the way he looked at me vulnerable, Raywit felt like the ground was shifting. Jax, I said, my voice shaky. Are you saying? Not here. He cut me off, glancing at the people nearby. Can we go back to your place? I nodded, my pulse hammering as we grabbed our stuff and headed back. The walk was quiet, the air thick with unspoken words. When we got to the apartment, I flicked on the lamp, casting soft light across the room. Jackson stood by the window, looking out at the dark ocean, his hands shoved in his pockets. Eli, he started, then stopped, turning to face me. I don't know how to do this. I've been trying to figure it out for months, and I'm still a mess. Just say it, I said, stepping closer. Whatever it is, I'm here. He took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto mine. I'm not straight. I don't know what I am exactly by. Maybe. Or, I don't know. But I've been thinking about you. A lot. And it's freaking me out because you're my best friend. And I can't lose you. My breath caught, the world narrowing to just us. You're not gonna lose me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Ever. He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him. You don't get it, Eli. It's not just that. I think I'm in love with you. The words hit like a wave, knocking the air from my lungs. I dreamed of this, but hearing it, seeing the fear and hope in his eyes made it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. I reached out, my hand brushing his arm, and he didn't pull away. Jax, I said, my voice breaking. I've loved you since we were 16. His eyes widened, and for a moment, we just stood there, the weight of years between us. Then he closed the distance, his lips crashing into mine, desperate and searching. It was everything I'd ever wanted and everything I'd feared. Messy, perfect, terrifying. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. What the hell do we do now? He whispered. I don't know, I admitted, my heart racing. But we'll figure it out. Together. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting stripes across Jackson's sleeping form on the couch. I stood in the kitchen, gripping my coffee mug, replaying last night's kiss until my head spun. It felt like a dream, but the ache in my chest was real. So was the fear. What did this mean for us? For him? Jackson stirred, blinking awake. Morning, he mumbled, his voice rough. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and I braced myself for awkwardness. But he just smiled, soft and unguarded. You make coffee yet? Or am I still earning my keep? I laughed, relief flooding me. It's ready, you slacker. I poured him a mug, our fingers brushing as I handed it over. The contact sent a shiver through me, and I saw it in his eyes to a flicker of something new. We sat at the counter, the silence comfortable but charged. So, I said finally, last night. He tensed, his grip tightening on the mug. Yeah. Last night. You okay? I asked, searching his face. I mean, you dropped a bomb. Jax. I just want to know where your head's at. He sighed, setting the mug down. I'm scared, Eli. I've spent my whole life being the guy everyone expects me, Dad. My teammates. My friends. And now I'm figuring out I'm not that guy. Not completely. I reached out, resting my hand on his. You don't have to be anyone's version of you. Just be you. Whoever that is. He looked at our hands, then up at me, his expression raw. What if who I am messes everything up? My dad already kicked me out. Said I was a disappointment. Anger flared in me, hot and sharp. Your dad's an asshole. You're not a disappointment. I stopped, my throat tight. You're everything. Jax. He swallowed hard, his eyes shining. You make it sound so easy. It's not, I admitted. But you're not alone. You've got me. He squeezed my hand, and for a moment, we just sat there, the world outside fading away. But reality crept back in. His phone buzzed on the counter, a string of texts lighting up the screen. He glanced at it, his face darkening. Who's that? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. My sister, Mia, he said, scrolling through the messages. She's worried. Says Dad's been ranting about me to the whole family. I winced. Jackson's dad was a piece of work, former military, all about discipline and manly ideals. Jackson had spent years trying to live up to that, playing football, dating cheerleaders, being the golden boy. I hated how much it still hurt him. Want to talk to her? I asked. Or, we could get out of here. Clear your head. He nodded, standing. Let's go. Somewhere loud, where I don't have to think. We ended up at the arcade, the same one we'd snuck into as kids. The neon lights and blaring music were a perfect distraction. And for a while, it was just us lawing, competing at air hockey, stealing each other's tokens. But I caught him staring at me sometimes, his eyes soft and searching, and it made my heart race. Later, we grabbed burgers at a diner, the kind with sticky tables and endless coffee refills. Jackson was quieter now, his earlier energy fading. Eli, he said, pushing his fries around. What if I'm not ready for this? For us. The question hit like a punch. I set my burger down, forcing my voice steady. Then we take it slow. No pressure. I'm not going anywhere. He nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. I just don't want to hurt you. You deserve better than some guy who's still figuring his shit out. You're not some guy, I said fiercely. You're Jackson. My Jackson. And I'll wait as long as it takes. He looked at me, something breaking open in his expression. How'd I get so lucky to have you? I smirked, trying to lighten the mood. You're just really good at picking best friends. He laughed, and it felt like a small victory. But as we walked back to the apartment, his hand brushing mine, I knew we were on the edge of something bigger, something that could either save us or break us apart. The next few days blurred into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. Jackson stayed, his duffel bag still by the couch, his presence filling the apartment with a warmth I hadn't realized I'd missed. We cooked breakfast together, walked the boardwalk, argued over who'd win in a zombie apocalypse. But every touch, every glance, carried a new weight. We hadn't kissed again, and I didn't push. He needed time, and I'd promised to give it to him. But time wasn't on our side. On the fourth day, his phone rang, a harsh, insistent sound that shattered the quiet. He glanced at the screen, his face paling. It's my dad. I froze, my coffee mug halfway to my lips. You don't have to answer. He hesitated, then hit accept, putting it on speaker. His dad's voice boomed through, sharp and cold. Jackson, you need to come home. This nonsense has gone on long enough. Jackson's jaw clenched. I'm not coming back. Dad. Not after what you said. You're throwing your life away. His dad snapped. For what? Some phase. You're not that way. You're confused. I saw the hurt flash across Jackson's face, and my hands curled into fists. I'm not confused, he said, his voice steady but tight. I'm figuring out who I am. And I don't need you telling me I'm wrong. There was a long pause, then a scoff. Don't expect to come crawling back when you realize you've made a mistake. The line went dead. Jackson stared at the phone. His shoulders slumped. I reached for him, but he pulled away, pacing the small living room. He's never gonna get it. Eli. Never. He doesn't have to, I said, stepping closer. You don't need his approval. You've got people who love you for you. He stopped, his eyes meeting mine. Like you. My heart stuttered. Yeah. Like me. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me into a hug that felt like he was holding on for dear life. I wrapped my arms around him, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. And for a moment, it was enough. But the call had shaken him. That night, he was restless, tossing on the couch while I pretended to sleep in my room. Around midnight, I heard him get up, the floor creaking as he moved to the window. I joined him, the moonlight casting shadows across his face. Can't sleep? I asked. He shook his head. Just thinking. About everything. My dad. My life. You. Me. I said, trying to keep my voice light. He turned to me, his expression serious. Eli, you've always been there. Even when I was a dumb jock who didn't deserve it. And now, I don't know how to be what you need. You already are, I said, my voice soft. Just be honest with me. That's all I need. He nodded, but the doubt lingered. The next day, he got a text from Mia, asking him to meet her in Portland. She's the only one in my family who doesn't think I'm a screw-up, he said, packing his bag. I should go see her. Clear my head. My stomach sank. You're coming back, right? He looked at me, his eyes soft. Yeah, Eli. I'm coming back. But as I watched him drive away, a part of me wondered if he really would. Seaside felt emptier without him, the apartment too quiet. I threw myself into work at the bookstore, shelving novels and helping customers. But my mind was on Jackson on the kiss, on his dad's cruel words, on the fragile hope we'd built. 3 days later, he texted, back in Seaside tomorrow. Can we talk? My heart leaped, but fear followed close behind. What did he want to talk about? Was he ready to face the Seuss or was he pulling away? When he showed up, he looked different, steadier, like he'd made a decision. He dropped his bag and pulled me into a hug, his lips brushing my forehead. I missed you, he said, and my world tilted. Missed you too, I managed, my voice thick. So, what's the talk about? He smiled, nervous but real. About us. About what happens next. Jackson sat on the couch, his hands clasped between his knees, the weight of his words hanging in the air. I saw Mia. He started, his voice steady but low. She's the only one who didn't look at me like I was broken. She said I need to stop running from myself. I sat across from him, my heart pounding. And what do you think? He looked up, his green eyes clear for the first time in days. I think she's right. I've been so scared of what this means being bi, loving you, losing everything I thought I was. But when I was in Portland, all I could think about was getting back here. To you. My breath caught. Jax, you don't have to have it all figured out. I just need you to be real with me. I am, he said, leaning forward. I want phthisis. But I'm terrified I'll mess it up. I've never done this before. Eli. Not with a guy. Not with someone who matters this much. I moved to sit beside him, our knees touching. We'll figure it out together. One step at a time. He nodded, his hand finding mine, his fingers lacing through. One step at a time, he echoed, and then he kissed me slow, deliberate, like he was memorizing every second. It wasn't like the first kiss, all heat and desperation. This one was a promise. The next week was a blur of small, perfect moments. We walked the beach at sunrise, shared coffee in bed, laughed over bad reality TV. Jackson started opening up more, telling me about the fights with his dad, the pressure to be someone he wasn't. I told him about my own fears, how I'd hidden my feelings for him, how I'd worried I'd never be enough. But there were shadows too. He got texts from old teammates, guys who'd heard rumors and sent snide comments. One night, he showed me a message from his ex-girlfriend, Claire, accusing him of lying to her about who he was. "She's not wrong," he said, his voice heavy. I didn't know myself back then. "You don't owe her an explanation," I said, squeezing his shoulder. "You're allowed to grow." He smiled, but it was strained. "Yeah, but it's hard when everyone's got an opinion about it." That night, we went to a local bar, a queer-friendly spot with fairy lights and a jukebox. Jackson was nervous, his eyes darting around, but when I grabbed his hand, he held on tight. We danced awkwardly at first, then with more confidence, our bodies moving together to some old pop song. For the first time, I saw him let go, his smile wide and unguarded. But as we left, a group of guys outside muttered something under their breath. I didn't catch it, but Jackson did. His face hardened, and he dropped my hand. "Let's go," he said, his voice clipped. Back at the apartment, he was quiet, staring out the window. "You okay?" I asked, touching his arm. He flinched, then softened. "Sorry. It's just, that shit gets to me. I thought I was ready, but maybe I'm not." "You don't have to be ready for everything," I said. "But you don't have to face it alone either." He turned to me, his eyes searching. "You make me want to be braver, Eli." "You already are," I said, pulling him close. And as we stood there, wrapped in each other, I believed it. But I also knew the world outside wasn't done testing us. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Jackson stayed in Seaside, picking up shifts at a local cafe while I worked at the bookstore. We were building something real: late-night talks, stolen kisses, quiet moments that felt like home. But the outside world kept creeping in. His dad called again, leaving a voicemail that Jackson deleted without listening. Old friends from Portland sent messages, some supportive, some cruel. I saw the toll it took, the way he'd go quiet, his smile fading. One evening, we were at the boardwalk, sharing a milkshake, when a familiar face approached Tyler, a guy from our high school football team. He'd always been a jerk, but now his smirk was venomous. "Heard you're living the rainbow life now, Jackson," he said, loud enough for people nearby to turn. "Didn't peg you for that." Jackson tensed, his jaw tight. "Walk away, Tyler." Tyler laughed, stepping closer. "What? You and Eli playing house now? That's cute." I stood, my fists clenched. "Back off, man." Tyler raised his hands, still grinning. "Chill, Eli. Just didn't think Jackson would turn out like you." Jackson was on his feet in a second, his voice low and dangerous. "Say what you want about me, but leave Eli out of it." Tyler backed off, still chuckling, but the damage was done. Jackson was quiet the whole way home, his hands shoved in his pockets. When we got to the apartment, he sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "I hate this," he said. I hate that I care what people think. I sat beside him, my heart aching. You don't have to be okay with it yet. It's not fair, what you're going through. He looked at me, his eyes red. I just want to be with you without feeling like I'm fighting the world. Then we fight together, I said, taking his hand. You and me. He nodded, pulling me into a hug. I don't deserve you, Eli. Shut up, I said, my voice muffled against his shoulder. You're stuck with me. The next day, he surprised me with a planner road trip up the coast. Just the two of us. No phones, no drama, he said, tossing me the keys to his beat-up Jeep. Let's get out of here for a bit. We drove to Cannon Beach, the wind whipping through the open windows, music blaring. For a few hours, it was just us lawing, singing off-key, stopping to take pictures by Haystack Rock. Jackson seemed lighter, his smile real again. At sunset, we sat on the hood of the Jeep, watching the sky turn pink and gold. I could do this forever, he said, his voice soft. Just you and me, like this. My heart swelled. Yeah, me too. But when we got back to Seaside, reality was waiting. Mia texted, saying their dad was coming to town. He wants to talk, Jackson said, his voice flat. Says he's ready to fix things. Do you want to see him? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. I don't know, he admitted. But I think I have to. For me. I nodded, squeezing his hand. I'll be here. Whatever you need. As he prepared to face his dad, I couldn't shake the fear that this meeting could change everything again. The morning of the meeting, Jackson was a wreck. He paced the apartment, his coffee untouched, his hands running through his hair. What if he just yells again? He said, more to himself than me. What if I can't handle it? I grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at me. You're stronger than you think, Jax. And you don't have to do this alone. I can come with you. He shook his head. No. This is something I need to do myself. But, knowing you're here, that's enough. I hugged him, pouring everything I felt into it. I'll be waiting. Right here. He met his dad at a diner across town, and I spent the day trying to distract myself organizing bookshelves, cleaning the apartment, anything to keep my mind off what was happening. When Jackson finally walked through the door, he looked drained but calm, like a storm had passed. How'd it go? I asked, my voice cautious. He sank onto the couch, exhaling. He didn't yell. That's something. He said he's trying to understand, but he's not there yet. Maybe he never will be. I sat beside him, my heart heavy. I'm sorry, Jax. He shrugged, but his eyes were soft. It's okay. Talking to him made me realize something. I don't need his approval anymore. I've got Mia. I've got you. That's enough. My throat tightened. You mean that? He turned to me, his hand cupping my face. Eli, you're my home. You always have been. I kissed him, slow and deep, tears stinging my eyes. When we pulled apart, he smiled a real, unguarded smile. I'm done running, he said. I want this. I want us. The weeks that followed were a new beginning. Jackson moved to Seaside permanently, renting a tiny apartment down the street. We took things slow, learning how to be together in this new way. There were still hard days, whispers from strangers, doubts that crept in, but we faced them together. One night, we stood on the pier, the same one where we'd laughed as kids. The stars were out, the ocean a dark, endless expanse. Jackson took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. I used to think I had to be someone else to be enough, he said. But with you, I'm just me. I leaned into him, my heart full. That's all I've ever wanted. As we stood there, the waves crashing below, I knew we built something stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And that one night when Jackson slept over, when everything changed had led us here, to a love that was worth fighting for.